So I'm talking today with John Laham and Taylor DeSanti from Father Bill's in Mainspring, where they believe that nobody should be homeless. The folks at Father Bill's are working to end the homelessness one life at a time. Their philosophy is all about housing first, and I think you'll find that in the conversation I have with them, so you can learn a little bit more about housing needs and how they're addressing those. And maybe you or somebody you know can find yourself needing their services, and I encourage you to reach out to them. Hope you enjoy our conversation. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in the community. I'm sure I will say that many times, but I have great gratitude for the work that you're doing, and I hope you know that. So how are you?
Thank you.
Doing well. We're doing well. It's certainly been an interesting several months, as it has been for everyone. And, we're just trying to do our best to continue, meeting our mission, which at Father Bill's in Mainspring is to end homelessness on the South Shore. So that looks a little different now than it did, 9 months ago. And we're, trying to pivot and be as flexible as we can to what needs to happen. But it's definitely been a good learning curve for us of how to look at shelter and housing in different ways and try to figure out new opportunities to do things a little bit more safely. I think what's also been really helpful for us over the past several months is to really make the case to the state and local municipalities that the old way of sheltering really doesn't work as well as maybe they thought. Warehousing hundreds of people in small buildings that are overcrowded is not good in a pandemic, certainly, but it's not good, even without a pandemic going on. So it's given us a real opportunity to advocate to our, state legislators and the governor of, hey, we think we have some better ways of doing shelter and housing going forward. So that's been a nice.
Not only are you providing incredible shelter and services for people, you're advocating for them. It's obviously a huge part of, I'm sure, what you both do. So let's talk a little bit, and I think, we could certainly talk a lot about the advocating, and I'm glad you bring that up because there's a lot of things that we need to do and a lot of lessons we can learn about how we can take care of each other better. I'd like to first focus, because I'm sure that there's some people out there today who may be even watching this right now who could use some help and don't know exactly where to turn. What exactly are you providing for folks on the front line? Obviously, we talked about shelter, providing access for people that are experiencing a housing crisis, don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. So that's, tell me a little bit about, if somebody, you can no longer sleep in the same bed they slept at last night and they're here today, what are their options? Are those the kind of people that come to you frequently, or are you hearing from other people most of the time?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always encourage people, if you're in a housing crisis, always call us. So they can call the Father Bill's line. So when they call, they will speak to a staff. That staff person will help them to the best of their ability. And then we'll also connect them to our case management team. So I oversee the services here at Father Bill's. And so our number one goal is to rapidly rehouse folks. Right now during COVID, we do have a waiting list due to the capacity needing to be at a certain number. We had to unfortunately start a waiting list for folks so that we can ensure our guests are safe, whether that be in the shelter here or at our depopulation site that we're at in a hotel in Quincy. So we are taking extra measures to make sure that people are being socially distant, that they're wearing masks, that they are being tested if they feel any symptoms, and that they're connecting with the staff if they feel like they're starting to see symptoms themselves. So if someone needs a bed, we might not be able to provide a bed that night due to that capacity limit.
So how does that waiting list work? If I, if I need a place to sleep tonight, I can get on the waiting list, but then I should find a friend and crash on the couch somewhere, or maybe sleep in my car, or find someplace safe. Obviously, trying to take the best care that I can. I assume there's other places, if the temperature starts dropping low. How does the waiting list work?
Yeah, so we are trying to see those that are on the waiting list, if they're outside, if they're fleeing domestic violence, if they have a safe place to stay that night. So we are asking those questions, and we are prioritizing folks based off of those things.
That makes sense.
So we're also prioritizing them based off of when they reached out to us. And so when a bed opens up, our diversion specialist will connect with the next person on our list, and that person has 24 hours to respond to us. If they don't respond to us within 24 hours, we do move on to the next person. However, if they reach back out to us and they say, I was actually hospitalized, or I wasn't able to get to a phone, we'll take that into consideration as well. So we want to make sure that everyone that needs a bed, we're trying our best to provide that. We are currently working on our winter protocol and what that means, due to, the temperatures being below 35 degrees. We don't want people sleeping outside. So we're currently working on a plan to try to get people in, if they are, if we know that they're going to be staying outside that night.
Yeah,
And, of course, we don't want that to happen.
if people are on the waiting list, they give you a call every day, especially like if their phone, it's hard to keep, like, I know I can't keep my phone charged all the time. So if I do encourage people to just call you and just keep in contact with you. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have people that are on our waiting list that call us every single day just to check in to make sure, that they're still on the waiting list, see where they are on the waiting list. And unfortunately,
call you guys welcome those calls. I know some people don't mind or aren't conscious, but other folks, we really don't want to bother people. It's not a bother to be called every day.
No, it's not a bother at all. It takes us, 1 minute to check where they are on the list. Because what happens oftentimes when people lose their place on the list, it's because we tried to connect with them and we couldn't get a hold of them. But of course, we understand some of our folks are staying outside and it's hard for them to get access to a phone. So we encourage them to come get a bag lunch every day. So that they can.
So you have bag lunches. Yeah, I know you guys have been doing awesome. I mean, people that have really great things to say about your food that I've heard. So you're still providing food. You're not doing hot, it's not a buffet at lunch anymore. You're just doing bag lunches for everybody, or?
So for the guests that stay with us at the shelter, we are providing them the 3 meals a day. Typically lunch and dinner are hot meals. And then for the folks that are staying at the hotel gives them the food 3 times a day. And then for folks who are staying outside or folks that, usually would come in for the community meal that we unfortunately had to stop, they can get a bag lunch as well for lunch and dinner.
Do you need to call ahead? So like if you're home and just the check is run out this month and, you don't have lunch, the cupboards are bare, can they just drop in and get one of those bag lunches? Anybody can?
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome. And you're not asking questions. You're not asking for photographs of those bare cupboards. You just,
No.
No, so if they come to our, the shelter in Quincy is 38 Broad Street in Quincy. If they come to the kitchen door, which is on the side of the building, between 12 and 1 for lunch, between 5 and 6 for dinner, bag lunches are just handed out to whoever needs them throughout that door.
That's really awesome. I'm really glad that people have that. How many people do you have coming every day?
For shelter census or for bag lunches?
For food. Yeah, if you come and, if you're just coming for lunch or dinner.
I think it fluctuates depending on the time of the month and the weather, but I would say on average about 20, 25 people are coming for bag lunches, for lunch or dinner. Yeah.
I know. So you talked a little bit about the measures that you're needing to take to keep everybody safe and making sure that we're not, you're not overcrowding any more than, you're really trying to pay attention to safe distances. But I know a lot of times, especially if you're living out in rough areas, it can just be hard to get healthcare. I know that you have healthcare providers there. Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of access for folks that really, don't know where to turn? Some of these, I recently had some conversations with some other people doing emergency services too. So I know that there's other resources in the community, but there's some awesome resources that you guys have right underneath your roof too.
Yeah, Boston Healthcare for the Homeless has a health clinic that's at Father Bill's. We have a nurse practitioner who's here 5 days a week, meeting with the guests. Her name's Hope. She's fantastic. Has worked for the agency for well over 25 years now, I believe, and knows the guests really well. Does a great job of engaging with them, and can offer primary care, urgent care matters, vaccines, screenings, health screenings, all sorts of stuff. And there's also a doctor that comes 2 days a week too that can offer primary care services. The really helpful thing for us is that because it's run by Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, is that Hope and Dr. Kim have access to the services that their whole network provides. So there's places like Barbara McGinnis House, which is a rehab program in Boston specifically for people who are experiencing homelessness. They have access to help get people into those particular programs for any type of rehabilitation that they need. So they really do a wonderful job helping people. We also have a mental health specialist through Elliott Community Human Services who works with an outreach worker. So Dima Hendricks is our mental health engagement counselor, and then Richard is our outreach worker. They will go out into the community, find people who are outside, help them fill out DMH applications, get access to therapy, whatever, services that person's interested in engaging in. So all of the
Richard helps people throughout the community. They don't even have to be residents of guests of yours.
Exactly.
to get these other health services, are they also available to anybody in the community? Or do you need to be an official guest to take advantage of some of those other services you were just talking about, John?
Yep, you don't have to be an official guest. We do have to at least kind of have you in our system a little bit, so we have to at least know who the person is. But there's a lot of people who were in shelter many years ago. They're in housing now, and they still come see Hope and Dr. Kim as their medical providers because they have a relationship with them. So they're always, yeah, they're always willing to continue seeing people and to meet people in the community that are on an outreach basis. They have their own registration forms that they would fill out. But if anyone's interested in meeting with them, they can call our front line and we can make sure they get connected to the health services. So pretty much everything that we offered pre-COVID and pre-pandemic, we're still offering. Sometimes it may look a little different. So some of like the mental health engagement counselor, they're doing a lot of telehealth meetings and, setting up Zoom meetings for people, but they're still able to engage in those same services.
A distinction that I think is significant. I know some shelters are dry shelters. But recognizing that people do struggle with addiction, and that it's not always, people are not always dry, especially if they're struggling with addiction issues. That is not a requirement. As long as people are not being overly disruptive or dangerous to themselves or others, everybody is welcome regardless of their sobriety. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's correct. So we are Housing First Harm Reduction Agency. So we do not require sobriety. We do not require mental health treatment. We work with the person first and then see what they need. If they want those services, of course, we'll assist with them, but we do not require it. Speaking of outreach, we have folks that are in our outreach program, so they don't have to be staying with us to work with a case manager on housing. They do have to be considered homeless in order to work with us, but we have folks that are staying outside that are working with us. We have a young adult program, so the young adults, they can be couch surfing in order to be in our program as well. And then we have a veteran program where we work with the VA on beds for our veterans. For those that are ready for housing, we have emergency funds for those type of things. So they can help with first, last, and security. It can be helped for a shallow subsidy. If people have family out of state that are willing to have them stay with them, we've provided bus passes, we've provided train passes, and we've also provided airplane passes as well. So those are other things we help with as well.
That's an amazing amount of resources so that people can really get the care that they need.
Yeah, I think there's often a perception of, particularly if people are in Quincy, they might know the shelter in Quincy and think that that's all that's offered is a place where people come and sleep and get a meal, which is certainly a critical need. But as an agency, we operate, about 550 units of housing on the South Shore. We have multiple prevention programs, as Taylor mentioned, rapid rehousing programs. So I would suggest that certainly if people are in need of shelter that night, calling the shelter is a great thing to get the process started, but we would actually love if they called us a little sooner. If you find that, all right, you're falling behind on rent or you're fighting with your roommate and you think you're going to lose your place maybe in a week or a month or whatever it might be, give us a call, because we would love to get in touch with you early on, try to get a sense of what do you need, what can we help you out with. Sometimes it might be maybe we're mediating with, parents and a child around what their living situation is. We might be able to help with connection to other services and some of the other great support agencies that are in Quincy on getting them access to whatever help they need. Our goal is to prevent and divert as many people from actually needing a shelter bed as possible. That's really hard when they show up with their bags and say, I got nowhere to go tonight. It's a different situation than, hey, I might not be able to make rent at the end of the month. What are the resources out there that might be able to help me with this? So
I think that's a really good point. I mean, just knowing what resources we all have available, my understanding, has really kind of evolved as I think about, what it's like to experience being homeless is that, and understanding there really is a spectrum, and that, because I've certainly had friends who couch surfed and, have been trying to figure out, okay, this relationship is breaking up and trying to figure out what the next steps are going to be, or, geez, my allergies are acting up and I can't stay where I've been staying before. And it can there's all sorts of circumstances and they're all different and they're all the same because we all need a place to sleep. We all need a place to take a shower and, safely use a bathroom and some really basic fundamental things. So just knowing what resources are available and being kind to ourselves, we don't always have to hit absolute rock bottom. I think that's a good point, that if we can realize that, things could be better, let's reach out to the people who could help and figure out, all right, what, maybe there are other people who have, greater needs than I do, but my needs still matter too, and so do all of ours. So.
Yeah.
And what I love whenever I've watched you talking with everybody is the dignity that comes. We don't need to think less of each other, because who knows the circumstances. I can only walk in my own shoes. I'm not walking in either of yours. So I've seen you bring that approach too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question. Some people may be, and this has actually never occurred to me as we've been talking over several years, but it's father bills. I know that there are religious institutions that provide services, and sometimes you have to sit through a sermon, or you need to be it helps if you're aligned with a certain faith. I've never gotten any sense of that there's any religious component. Maybe I'm mistaken, but.
Yeah, we're not a faith-based organization. There are, certainly faith-based nonprofits that do similar work to us. Our history comes from the interfaith social service kind of movement. So in the early 1980s, as the Quincy Interfaith Sheltering Organization and Mainspring Shelter for the Homeless, they were two separate agencies in Quincy and Brockton, both started by a coalition of religious members in the community. So I think most people in Quincy know Father Bill McCarthy, who was a very well-known priest in the area, and very active in social justice and poverty issues. He, along with Reverend Wismar and several other kind of religious leaders, kind of put together the original sheltering response, because they had people showing up to their front steps of their churches and their synagogues saying, hey, people need a place to stay. And how do we help them in a way that's more collaborative and actually supportive, as opposed to each individual house of worship just kind of giving out support as needed. Very similar thing in Brockton happened with a Catholic nun named Mary Sheehan, who helped coordinate with Jack Conway from Jack Conway Realtors to look at how are we going to provide a response in Brockton. And so both agencies had this sort of religious beginning, but as the nonprofit has grown, it's not specifically tied to any one particular religion by any means. We don't require people to attend services. We don't require people to ascribe to a particular faith, but we do get quite a bit of support from different religious groups. So people come in to volunteer. They provide meals. They provide donations. A lot of support from the faith-based community here in Brockton. So they're certainly fantastic supporters, but we don't require people to be sober. We don't require that piece of it to be a part of our program.
Hmm. I didn't think that you did. I just I didn't know if people would have questions because of that. So thank you for.
Yeah, no, it's a common question we often get of like, aren't you a Catholic organization or aren't you a religious organization? So yeah, the name is a little quirky with that.
So lots of great support, but no requirements or expectations. Yeah, awesome. Is there anything, any final thoughts you'd like to share with folks? As I don't want to take any more of your time today, but I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, all the resources you're making available, and all the efforts you're making to advocate so we can learn really you're there on the front lines helping people understand, and helping provide these services. And I think there's more that we could all do so that we, to support you and to support the people who need this help.
I think the only other thing I would want to plug is we, as I said earlier, we operate a lot of housing programs, and we have a lot of resources to help move people into apartments. If people are landlords in the community and would like to partner with us, we're always happy to try to find new landlord relationships. If you are friends with landlords or have connections with those groups, please reach out to us. Let us know. We're always looking for landlords that are willing to engage with our population, and whether that's with some of the subsidies like MRVPs and Section 8s and other long-term subsidies. There's also financial assistance that we help provide. We try to be really great partners with our landlords and work collaboratively with them. So always looking forward to getting new connections for that.
I could see that being a great resource. I mean, a great connection to help people get housing, and also somebody who's got an empty unit someplace. There could be some really steady income to be had while helping people, and a really nice symbiotic relationship there.
Exactly. And it's someone that's going to have a case manager supporting them and helping to ensure that they're stable in their home. So the number, if anyone needs to call shelter, is 617-770-3314. That's our main number to Father Bill's place. We have staff that work the building 24/7 every day of the year. So there's always someone available to pick up the phone anytime someone needs a call.
Clayton, we appreciate you putting this together and for putting this out there. I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Well,
This is
thank you so
wonderful.
much. It is confusing trying to figure out what resources are available, and also just intimidating. I think anytime, when you're struggling trying to figure out, just having something that makes it, yeah, these are people. We're all just people trying to help out and doing the best we can. The fact
Yeah.
that you've got people answering the phones up in you 24/7 is awesome. I hope you found that conversation enlightening. They are certainly there. They said shared the number so you can call them 24/7 with any needs that you have related to housing or your housing and how that's impacting your life in so many different ways, as we all know it does when we think about it. So if you need help, please give them a call. I'm sure they'll do their best to help you out.